What's up, y'all? It's Moosh here, and today in this video we're going to be talking about why you probably won't make it in the Disney College program. And I'm not saying that to scare anybody. However, something to think about is there is a huge turnover in the Disney College program, and a lot of people quit within the first 2 weeks or even don't even make it through the entire program. So in this video we're going to be talking about some of those things. So as you like and subscribe to this video, let's get right to it. So let's start with why so many people self-term from the Disney College program. First of all, one of the things to remember is that you don't get to choose your role when you're doing the DCP. A lot of times, they just put you where they need you based off of your web-based interview. So one of the things to remember is a lot of people come in and think that the Disney College program is going to be like this easy thing where they're barely going to work and go to the parks. That is not it. You are going to be working, and sometimes you're going to be working a lot. When I was doing my Disney College program, I was working at Pecos, and sometimes I was working up to 65 hours and more a week. If you're going into it with the expectation of, oh, you're going to have mostly fun and barely going to be working, that is not the experience for everybody. And a lot of times when people realize that, they don't want to do that because a lot of people aren't used to working a lot of hours. Sometimes the DCP will be a lot of people's first jobs, and because of that, they will quit. And that's okay. That's a good decision to make for yourself if you are aware that you're not cut out to be working long hours for very little pay. People self-term for various reasons. One of the other things I've noticed when people are leaving the Disney College program is because of money. Living in Florida is expensive, and especially if you don't know how to manage your money, living in Orlando and going to Disney World, especially if you're a Disney adult and love Disney merch, is extremely hard. From my experience when I did the program, I noticed that there were two types of people in their roles. There were people that were barely getting 30 hours and barely making rent every week, or there were people that were working 50, 60 hours a week and barely had time to even spend the money. A lot of times, if you're making 30 hours a week and you have other bills, it's really hard to make rent, pay your bills, and also just live off of that too. And because of that, oftentimes if students don't have family supporting them and they're barely getting any hours, that leads to people quitting too, because living in Florida is expensive. If you don't have enough savings, if you have emergency expenses, let's just say you have a medical emergency and your health insurance doesn't get covered in Florida, you get screwed over. And oftentimes people quit because of that, because of financial reasons and how expensive it can be living on your own for the first time, especially if you don't know how to manage your money, if you have emergencies, or you're barely getting any hours and barely getting 30 hours a week. Another thing to remember is people get homesick. I had plenty of people that I did the DCP with, and when they started the program, they were super excited, but at the end of the day, they weren't making a lot of friends. That was my experience, but there are people that didn't feel like they fit in, and also they got really homesick, and because of that, they ended up self-terming, and that's completely normal. Sometimes being far away from home is extremely hard, and people will self-term because of that too. I've talked about a lot of the reasons why people leave the Disney College program. One of the other things I've also noticed people leaving DCP for is disability accommodations. Even though Disney does a really good job for the most part for accommodations, there are often times when they will mess up. And when that happens, it takes them forever to basically accommodate people and accommodate students based on their roles. I knew people that had food allergies that were stuck with me at Pecos, and it took them up to a month and a half for them to get a new role. And even when they got their new role, it didn't accommodate their disabilities. And sometimes it takes day after day to even submit the paperwork. When students or cast members that are DCP people have severe disabilities or disabilities that need immediate action, oftentimes Disney can't react to it on time, and because of that, a lot of people end up quitting too, and it's one of the saddest reasons to see someone quit, and because of their disability. So something to remember is that Disney will try to accommodate you, but there will be mistakes, and sometimes they won't accommodate all your needs, and because of that, it can be very difficult for you to be able to do your job. Overall, doing the DCP is not always the easiest thing. It is one of the best experiences I ever had. I made friends that I will have for the rest of my life. However, the jobs can be really hard sometimes depending on your role. Sometimes you'll be working long hours. Sometimes you won't get enough hours, and sometimes you won't make enough money. You'll be far away from home, and if you're really close to your family, sometimes you won't be next to them. and that can lead to homesickness. And accommodations are not always easy for people with disabilities, especially if you're in a high pressure role that requires a lot of movement. So these are some things to consider, and these are some of the reasons why people end up self-terming. Talk about some of the reasons people self-term from my experience. Let's talk about the reasons people get termed or get fired. There are a multitude of ways you can get fired from Disney because of how strict they are. One of the things you have to remember is that Disney has a very strict point system. So every single absence results in a point, and every 3 points results in a reprimand unless they've changed the system already. As a Disney intern, you are not protected by union rights and worker rights that are protected by unions. So oftentimes if you get sick, those aren't always going to be protected as sick leave, and you can get reprimands for that. I remember getting an ear infection and I was sick for multiple days, and I got points for those, and I had to get a reprimand for my absences too. So if you get multiple reprimands, you will get termed, and oftentimes that happens to a lot of people. People being late consistently, people missing their shifts or calling out leads to people getting termed, and they get asked to leave, and they have to leave Flamingo within 24 hours. I've also seen people get termed for very dumb things. For example, posting B-reels backstage. If you're working for Disney, you can't take pictures behind stage or while on the clock. They have a very strict phone policy, and I've seen people lose their jobs because of that. I've seen people also lose their jobs because of a churro. You cannot eat the food and merchandise while you're working, and they are huge on that. I have literally seen people get fired for stealing the smallest things, and one of the saddest things to see is like someone would lose their job because of a $5 churro. So if you're on the clock and if you're working, don't steal food, don't eat a churro. Losing your job is not worth it. Overall, Disney is extremely strict when it comes to its policies in terms of Disney look, attendance, and also the reprimand system. If you're going to be calling out a lot, you are going to get termed. And if you are going to be stealing food, and if you're not going to be professional or follow all the Disney guidelines, it's very easy to get termed from the company, and a lot of people do. So keep that in mind when you're applying for the Disney College program. And also, if you get termed, you have to leave within 24 hours from Flamingo Crossing. So getting all that organized, packing all your bags, and finding transportation to leave, that is stressful. So keep those things in mind if you are also going to Disney. And I'm not saying most people are going to get termed or self-term, but these are some things to remember, and these are, from my experience, some of the common things people have gotten fired for or left for. Once again, these are some of the things I observed from my time in the college program, and also this is from my experience. It might be different now, so I recommend talking to other people that are doing the program too. And again, I don't speak for the company and represent it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I hope you have an amazing day.